Welcome to another episode of Fairytales for Theists. There is no fun in this episode, or is it? So everyone who expected to laugh can leave right now, and any one of you who is just here to watch the ladies, please forward to the 36-minute mark. This episode is a part of a discussion I had with Alvin on Hangouts. I like Alvin a lot because beside the fact that he is talking a lot, he is well read and very kind. He is a theist. In his opinion, the actual historical facts support the idea that the God stuff in the Bible is not a 100% lie. I hope he forgives me for my definition of him. So let's go into it.
So look, Paya, let's dig into this, okay?
All right.
So when it comes to not just biblical literature, just ancient, the way people recorded history in general, it is not to the standard of how people do it now.
Yeah.
They were not concerned with 100% historical accuracy. Even if you read Herodotus's histories, right, who they call the father of history, he said he saw a unicorn, flying snakes. He said Zeus came down to Egypt with a ram head and tricked them into thinking he was a different god. So but that also doesn't mean what Herodotus wrote is like all myth, right? It's just people, when they wrote history back then, they would emphasize things to get a point across more so than try to keep everything historically accurate. So when you read in the Bible and it's talking about a worldwide flood, I would say that would be an exaggeration, because obviously there wasn't a worldwide flood. Now, does that mean that?
Yeah. If I'm sorry, Ashkenazi make a point first.
Why do you say obviously there was no worldwide flood? What does that?
For
that
the
makes-
reason Piao just mentioned, it's like you would have to have.
But the Bible says there was.
So you mean
take the Bible if you take that part literally, yeah, but I don't take that literally, especially.
but
How do you
but-
choose? Go ahead. Sorry, Pio.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
especially if it's using. Okay, go ahead, Piao.
But isn't it fundamental stuff like the flood? Because God was pissed off and wanted to start again. So if there wasn't a worldwide flood, it really changes the whole meaning of the Bible.
No, it doesn't. Because what is the worldwide flood? The worldwide flood is symbolically the first baptism. The world was baptized. And what is baptism? Baptism is
No. This is not how I understanding.
Okay, hold on. Listen. Baptism is the remissions of sin. The world was full of sin. He baptized the world. And then again, you have the term 40. Everywhere you see 40 in the Bible, for the most part, is in regards to some kind of cleansing thing. So when you have Noah, you're cleansing the world of all the evil. Then 40 years in the wilderness, you're spending 40 years to cleanse the Israelites from all the pagan Israelites that maintained the Egyptian religion. Then you got 40 days and 40 nights with Jesus in the wilderness. You're fasting. That's a cleansing thing. So when you have those components in there, then you have to take off your hyper literal lens and look at the figurative lens in it.
Okay, Alvin. So
And I'm not alone, guys.
only a part of the people were baptized, and the other didn't.
No, the
Didn't
world.
matter?
No. It's symbolically baptizing the world. It's, hey, the world is full of sin, violence, and all of this stuff. So we're going to baptize them. And they're using this number 40 that you see in regards to
I know about
and
them.
40 days and 40 nights. And it's a symbolic baptism of the world. Now, did it literally happen? I don't believe so. But the message is quite clear. You dip yourself in water and then you get good again. The earth had to do it.
Yeah, okay, but what is the sense of it then? If there is a symbolic and baptizing and people got the sins were forgiven whatsoever, right? What about the other people? Are they not important?
No, I'm not saying when the flood happened, everybody that got drowned was baptized. No, I'm saying symbolically, the earth itself, the physical earth itself, was baptized, and then it came up anew. It is
But it
symbolic.
wasn't new if
World
it was
being
only
baptized.
local,
What you say?
Alvin. But it wasn't. It wasn't symbolically or baptized because it was only local. It means
You're
that the
not.
most
No,
most
no, no, no.
earth
Listen,
was
the,
not baptized.
listen. No, you listen. The figurative speech is that the world was baptized, but the literal thing that happened was it was probably a local flood. But
Yeah.
as I told you, how historians used to write at these time periods, they weren't concerned about historical accuracy. They were more concerned about emphasizing a particular message. So if there was a mega flood that happened, okay, let me emphasize that by saying the whole world was flooded. And then I'm going to add on these 40 days and 40 nights. And if you're in these communities and you hear that term 40, you know it's in regards to some kind of cleanliness because you see it riddled throughout the scriptures when it comes to this word 40. So, no, there wasn't a literal worldwide flood. But if you do read that story, it is a symbolic parallel to what you see in baptism. Baptism is a remissions of
Yes,
sin.
but
You cleanse yourself, you come back up, and then you're good again.
yes, Alvin, yes, but what is the sense if it's only a local flood and no matter 40 days, even if it's a magic number, right? Or
I told you
let's
the same.
believe it's a magic number. What is the sense of it?
I just
Because
told you the same.
no, because you said the word was baptized, and it wasn't because it was only local. It might be
No,
that just
no, you're
only
dipping.
only
Okay,
coast was flooded.
you're, you're dipping in and out of figurative and literal. When you take the metaphorical nature of it, it amplified it to the world. That's not literal when it says that. Now, if you want to talk about the actual history of it, that's localized. But if you want to talk about this specific message of the 40 days and 40 nights of raining, that is figurative. So you can't say, well, maybe you can't. It's like George Washington, right? George Washington never chopped down a damn cherry tree. He never did it in his life. But people teach them their kids that story to teach them how to lie. Now, George Washington did exist. You can't say, well, wait a minute. George Washington never cut down a cherry tree, so the story doesn't make sense. No, it makes perfect sense. It's like, hey, don't lie. That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, and
So
how could the story affect the Japanese?
you're not. Oh my God.
No, yeah, this is a valid question. Okay, no,
keep saying
because
this. I keep saying the
I don't
same thing.
see. Yeah,
I keep,
I know. Maybe I just don't understand it. I just don't understand if it wasn't a global flood.
okay,
What's
okay.
the
I'm
sense
gonna
of it?
try to
It's
explain
a
it better.
symbolic stuff. Wait,
So
it's
you
a
know what?
symbolic stuff.
It's not. Well,
The
yeah.
Japanese never heard of Jesus or Abraham, of Moses and stuff, and the
Okay.
message should be brought to them, and they
Okay.
should,
So,
in fact, also believe in this stuff.
okay. So it's not your fault. It's my fault. For some reason, I'm not explaining this right to where you can understand what I'm saying. So look, this story. Who is the story talking to? Who's the audience? The audience is the Jews. Why would they say anything about a Japanese if the audience is the Jews in regards to the story?
You are right. This book was written for the Jews.
Right. So this is them telling this story culturally Jewish or Hebrew. It would probably be Hebrew at this time. And they are saying this is something you guys understand because you guys are familiar with the Epic of Gilgamesh. You guys are familiar with the Shurappak flood. And I'm going to put emphasis on this. So this part would be figurative because it'll be relative to the audience. It wouldn't be relative to the people in Japan and China at this time. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah, and I because I agree to you that this story is written for them.
Right.
So who should give a fuck about this if he's not a Jew?
I mean, people that find it interesting.
Yeah, but
If you
isn't it?
don't give a fuck about it, then you wouldn't give a fuck about it. But if you're a non-Jew and you read it and it's fascinating to you, then come on in.
Yeah, but what I mean by that, I mean the bigger message. There is a God, there is a creator and stuff. This is because it boils down to this stuff. So if there is only a message for one particular people, right?
Wait a minute. Well, there's almost 3 billion people who aren't Jews who are inspired by the story. So I guess it's not it's written for Jews, but evidently it's inspiring to a whole bunch of people who aren't Jews.
Yeah, but how many people we have on Earth? And if you consider,
Matter of fact, if you want to include Muslims, that's almost 4 billion people, man.
yeah, but Muslims don't believe in our in really in our God. They believe in something else.
They believe in the God of Abraham. Now, what they say about the God of Abraham is different. They might say he did this and that, but they believe in the YHWH.
I don't
And I
think
like
so.
how you say our God. I really like that.
Well,
That
then
makes
it
me-
does come down to what Pio said. God exists, or God doesn't exist. That's the question. One or two, either or.
Yeah, even if you can count the 1 billion Muslims and add to our 6 millions or whatsoever, or 14 millions now, it's still not the majority on the planet. So it's just
It's
saying,
like 40%, I think. It's like 40% of the
right.
world believe in the God of Abraham. That's pretty significant.
But it just means that the majority have another opinion, so we might be wrong, and I will fight against the stuff that they believe in our God. I will
I
really
just
go
like
against it.
saying
I don't
our
believe even
God.
a Christian believe in the same God. They're just telling the story.
No, it's no. This is what it is, man. I call it the Barack Obama effect. So, is it the Barack Obama born in the Philippines? Is the Barack Obama born in Kenya? Is the one in Hawaii? Is it the Barack Obama whose father was an American blues player? You know, there's only one Barack Obama, but you got several different rumors or stories about what Barack Obama did or didn't do, or where he was born or was born. So
But
there's
we
only
can prove where Barack Obama came from.
right.
We can prove all the stories.
But that doesn't mean the person that says Barack Obama was born in Kenya is talking about a completely different person. No, he's talking about Barack Obama. He just has misinformation about what Barack Obama did. You know what I'm saying? There's only one Barack Obama. There's only one God of Abraham. There's no other deity that has been claimed to be the God of Abraham. That's why we call these Abrahamic faith.
And I will still disagree. And if you ask a Muslim if it is the same God, the first thing he will say, yeah, the Torah and the New Testament is corrupted. We don't believe in this stuff. The Christians are stupid. Oh, maybe the Jews are near us, but we know what true is.
Right.
So,
no, what they're saying is we have the real message from the God of Abraham. It's not a different God. They would just say, hey, you guys have corrupted the God of Abraham's message, and we have the real message, and he gave it to Muhammad or whatever. But they're not saying you guys worship a completely different deity. You're saying you have the wrong information on what that deity wants you to do.
but
That's what
they are very significant, like heaven and hell stuff.
they're very significant, but it's not like a different God. It's the same God.
For me, it is. Like only the stuff with heaven and hell, and like if you look at the commandments, maybe we would destruction a little bit, but I'm trying to point out the differences. If the Christian says if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you will go to hell. The
I
Muslim
would,
says, if
I
you
would
don't believe in
actually
Allah, you will go to hell. And they say, oh, those Christians are the devils. And the Christian says, oh, those are the devils. In the Jewish religion, nobody gives a fuck in which religion you believe, because you'll be judged upon your deeds.
Well, you have a good point, and I would argue first century Christians believed everybody goes to Hades. They didn't. This thing of you better believe in Jesus or you spend eternity in hell is a fairly recent Christian belief. Because let me give you this quote from a Christian um, in the first century. This is from this is from Hippolytus of Rome. Okay, so this is not a Jew. Hold on, let me read this for you. Now this is like 160 CE, 160 AD. Okay, I mean 170 AD. So this is early. This is an early Christian right here. All right, hold on. Okay, there we go. You see my screen?
Yes.
Now this is what he says about hell, or this they call it Hades, in in the Latin. Hades is a place in the created system ruled, a locality between the earth in which the light of the world does not shine. And as the sun does not shine in this locality, there must necessarily be perpetual darkness there. This locality has been destined to be, as it were, a guardhouse for souls, at which the angels are stationed as guards, distributing according to each one's deeds the temporary punishments of characters. And in this locality, there is a certain place set apart by itself, a lake of unquenchable fire, into which we suppose no one has ever yet been cast, for it is prepared against the day determined by God. So this is a very different view of hell you see in a lot of Christian denominations. Like even with this, look at this. But we must speak concerning Hades, in which both the righteous and the unrighteous are detained. So this is very different from the devil sitting on a throne with a pitchfork and everybody's getting tortured by demons. This says angels are in Hades distributing the temporary punishments based off what? Based off someone's deeds. And this is entirely different from what you see in modern day Christianity.
And
Completely different.
entirely differently from the Muslims, because in Muslim hell you'll be tortured forever. And
Right.
I can provide you verses, and then it will be on the skin, and they will got the skin again to be tortured again, which is so.
Right.
This is why I mean they claim, because of the historical, not the historical. I made a mistake, but this is because how Muhammad got his religion from his uncle, right? But he did knew the stuff. He could not read, he could not, like me and you, go on Google or read some books. It's my claim. They claim to be talking about the same God, but for me, it's totally different God with totally different set of minds.
You know what? You kind of sound like what's his face, Marcion. That Marcion said the God of the Old Testament is a completely different God from the God of the New Testament. And the God of the Old Testament trapped us all in some kind of matrix or whatever. And the God of the New Testament will free us. That, like, you sound like Marcion right now.
No, I'm telling you, for me, the God of the Old Testament was a try and error God, which already disqualified him to be one of the Muslim gods, because he made stuff and then he made a mistake, and then he wanted to make it good again, and so he tried again.
Well, here's a thing about, now here's what's interesting. I wouldn't even use the word mistake, because let me tell you what's interesting about it. there's a passage where God is teaching Moses how to use the staff and the snake, right? So he says, listen, you're going to go into Egypt. I want you to show Pharaoh the staff turning into the snake. And you're going to do these 10 plagues, right? But guess what, Moses? It's not going to work. And matter of fact, I'm going to make it not work by hardening his heart.
Right.
So you would be like, wait a minute. So what would be the point of me doing this if you already know it's not going to work? You see what I'm saying? Now,
Yeah, I know.
this
I
is
noticed.
this is why this is for the reader. See, this is now relevant for the reader, so you can see the 10 plagues. And if you look at the 10 plagues, you will see it's in a direct attack on all of the major gods of Egypt. Okay? Blotting out the sun in perpetual darkness. That is an attack on the sun god Ra. Um, famine on the crops and the locusts. That's an attack on Osiris, the farm deity. Okay? The smashing up the ground with the lights, you're attacking Geb. So the 10 is basically to assert Yahweh's dominance over the gods of Egypt. He even said that, I think what was that in chapter 12, and then he judged the gods of Egypt. So it's for the reader. Like, listen, this is the big dog, not these other guys.
Yeah. No. The main point is we are talking about stories now and blah, what happens and stuff. And if I could provide you a Kemet guy who will say those gods were not gods
They were just
because
principles.
they were principles, right? Yeah. So this is knowledge, not a religion and stuff.
No,
So
here's the thing though. That's not backed up by any professional Egyptologist. Now, again, here's the thing. It's not an all or nothing scenario. Was there allegory in these Egyptian myths? Yes. Were all of those Egyptians myths written with the intent of being literal? Of course not. They used a lot of things, as you all see in the Bible, where they exaggerate certain things and overemphasize certain point for the reader to get the message. So no, it's not all literal, but the Egyptians definitely believed those gods were real. Now, the stories they wrote about them may not be meant to be historically accurate, but when you're making sacrifices, when you're praying and you have all these special rituals toward these deities, you think those things are literally real.
okay. Not. I mean, not okay.
Okay.
Because
See,
okay.
P.L., let me tell you something. P.L., I don't
Yeah.
think you're a hardcore atheist. I think you kind of believe in God a little bit.
No, not really, because there are too many of them. That's my point.
No. You believe. Forget about the minutia of names.
No, because that's the point. Because I'm talking to people with different beliefs. Maybe I have some little knowledge about stuff, right?
No,
But
yeah.
that's why when I'm arguing about this stuff, it seems like, oh, here he is claiming from this god and he's claiming from this god.
No, Peter. I mean, P.L., watch this. You don't like the minutia, right? Of what's the right version of God? Who has the right name? Who has the right stories? But if we go to the bare bones of the creator of the universe, we're not going to game bang him and give him a name or a culture or say he has a chosen people. Let's just say there's a creator of the universe. I think you believe that a little bit. I think you believe that just a little bit.
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm fascinating by all the stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know there is no evidence until now which will be which will make me an atheist. That's the point. Because I like all the stories. You could say, oh, now I believe in Thor, or I believe in Pengu, or
I
I believe
actually know
in,
a guy that believes in Thor. Um,
yeah,
he's his name is Ocean. I don't know if you met Ocean, but he believes in Thor, Odin, and Freya, and all those guys, right? And
yeah, yeah, the
but
Nordic.
you know what though? When he says he talks to Thor, I actually, I, I almost kind of believe him.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he's talking to
but
something.
but
I don't think look.
if he would say the stuff in Iran, he'll be killed for this. Or
Look, like you
let's
said,
imagine just Europe 200 years ago. Every one of us will be killed for the stuff we are talking about.
right? No, this guy said he believed in Thor, and I'm gonna say this: I don't think he's lying. Could he be wrong? Yeah, but when he tell me he talks and speaks to Odin and Thor on the regular, and they talk back, I actually believe he believes that.
Yeah, but you
You know what I'm saying?
okay?
I don't think he's
You
making
believe
it up.
that he believes it. It's like to say, I know he is ill and stupid, but I
No,
believe
no, no,
him
no, no,
when
no, no.
he's talking about this stuff.
I'm not
Oh,
saying he's stupid. No, no, he's actually real smart. No, I'm not saying he's stupid, and I'm not even necessarily saying he's wrong. I'm just saying what he says isn't confirmed. Just like what I say, I have seen isn't confirmable, right? But I don't think it's a hoax. Like I don't think he's making it up.
of
I
course not.
think
In
I
his
think
brain, in his brain, it works.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's lying to me. I think he in his head has talked to something.
Of
May or may
course.
not be right.
Yeah, I will agree with this, but it does not mean it that it this is true.
Right. I mean, that would be something. That would be something different, right? But
But because if you would be a hardcore Christian, you would say, "Oh, he's a pagan." Yeah, repent your sins, stuff, and come to Jesus.
well,
And this
this
is
is
my
where
point.
I blame. I'm gonna tell you this. For the first maybe 300 years of Christianity, there is no bloodshed in the name of Christ. You know that?
Of
First,
course,
yeah.
Uncle
So
Constantine make it happen.
now watch. Yeah. So as soon as Theodosius the First makes Rome a Christian nation, all of a sudden we see all these Christian atrocities. That's not a coincidence. You know how Rome dealt with people that didn't give offerings to the Roman pantheon? They would torture and kill them. So what happens when they converted into Christianity? If you didn't say you love Jesus, they'll torture and kill you. It's their culture. It's it was just the same culture that flipped religion wise. So instead of killing non pagans, they started killing pagans.
Yeah, and this is also my point. Like, whoever is in power, they rewrite all these stories because people didn't knew stuff back then. Every, and I don't mean on purpose somehow. Every culture rewrite this God story to be the better ones in the story. It's a very different till today because, like you say, creator of our world, we have at least proof that our universe could be created without a god, which was not possible to think of for all these deities or all these believers 100 years ago. So whenever we discover something, it does not point to there is a God. it's always the opposite. So my statement is like, give me an evidence that your God or whatsoever is true, and I mean it. Give me a bit of evidence so I can think about it. But until now, no one could it. No matter if you can prove, oh, historically this and this happened, right? It does not say nothing about the God stuff. It just says, oh, this people went from there to there, and we, or whatsoever, or there was a king. But no one can prove heaven, hell, blah blah. And I'll tell
I
you what.
mean,
Wait. Please wait. I
it's
need
going
now.
on a long time, PR. This is like a little
I
monologue
need.
you got going on.
Yeah, I know. I think I need just 5 minutes.
This is a little monologue here, man.
Yeah. Um. Let's just assume, for sake of the argument, there is a God, and we don't know which one is the true one because there are many.
Mm-hmm.
As an atheist, because the highest atrocity or the wrongest thing I can do is to believe in a false God. So let's imagine there is such thing as Judgment Day, which is nearly in all beliefs. So on a Judgment Day, I am an atheist. On a Judgment Day, suddenly I'm standing in front of the Creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he will ask me, why didn't you believe in me? And I say, yeah, you just didn't give me enough evidence. On the other side, I never worshipped a false God. So in the moment I'm standing in front of him, I'm the true believer because I have my evidence. And all the other theists who believe in their God, and if you imagine alone in India, there are 390 million gods, different gods. And so your chance to pick the right one is very low. So nearly all the theists will go to hell just for believing in the wrong God. So my position as an atheist is real cool.
Well, no, where does it say in the scripture that such a dialogue will happen where how come you didn't believe in me? Because when you look at Revelations, it says what you says. Everybody will be called up from the sea and from the ground and will be judged according to what? Their deeds.
Right, yeah.
Not their belief.
I just make the Christian Muslim scenario.
Well, that's good for a Christian. Look. See, look, I'll give you this, okay? What Christians believe today is so dramatically different from what Christians of the first century believed. It's actually quite amazing, you know. There was actually even an attempt to un-Jewify Christianity. I know that sounds tripped out, but in the Council of Laodicea, they they started, you know, punishing Christians, or they started prohibiting Christians from observing the Sabbath because it looked too Jewish. This is when they started transferring the word Passover, stopped using that and started using Easter instead. All of this stuff happened during that. You know what I'm saying? This is when they stopped doing the High Holy Day. So early Christians were still very much kind of Judaic, so to speak, right? But then again, once the Roman converted into Christianity, I mean, you could throw a little racism on top of that. The Romans didn't particularly really like Jews like that, so they had to.
There were difficult people in this time. There were rebellious people in this time.
Yeah, they kind of had to Okay, we adopted this new religion, but let's cleanse it of all the traces of like Jew stuff in it. I mean, that's what happened. So the result is the kind of Christianity you see today, where you can be a Christian and say you hate Jews at the same time.
Yeah. A few seconds later, Alvin dropped out of the call, and we were not able to continue. Ooh. Was this a sign from Ricky Pondlagod? I don't think so. So let's move on to the ladies.